This was meant to be the place where the world began its fight back against climate change. 192 countries gathered under the one roof in the Danish capital. And in the end, what they've got is a deal that many people have described as a disaster and a betrayal. He called it a deal, others called it failure.
What we have achieved in Copenhagen will not be the end, but rather the beginning of a new era of international action.
Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
It was a long and difficult day with many discussions and disagreements. The biggest dispute lay between the US and China. The Americans call this deal meaningful, an unprecedented first step. The main details: countries agree to try to limit the global temperature increase to no more than 2 degrees Celsius. There will be a fund of billions of dollars to fight the effects of climate change in poor and vulnerable countries. And there will be an international exchange of information on carbon emission cuts.
To continue moving forward, we must draw on the effort that allowed us to succeed here today. Engagement among nations that represent a baseline of mutual interest and mutual respect. Climate change threatens us all. Therefore, we must bridge old divides and build new partnerships to meet this great challenge of our time.
When 192 countries gathered in Copenhagen at the beginning of this summit, the chance of a legally binding deal was small, but hopes were high something good would emerge. For many, this clearly isn't it.
It's a betrayal of the poor, the betrayal of vulnerable countries, a betrayal of small island states, and it's a betrayal of the future of all children and our grandchildren on this planet.
A deal has got to be fair and just. It's got to commit rich countries to making pledges of at least 40% minimum in terms of cuts. It's got to match the science, and if it doesn't do that, then it's not worth the paper it's written on.
In the halls of the Summit Centre, the talk was of the deal being done between the US and the emerging economies of China, India, Brazil and South Africa. One leading member of the G77 Developing Nations Group says for a global problem, that's simply not acceptable.
What the world needs is just an equitable deal. What the world needs is a transparent, democratic, participatory process for concluding a deal.
Many world leaders have said that this is just one step when several are needed. Over the next few hours and days, people will begin to examine in detail the Copenhagen Accord to see what's included, but perhaps more significantly, to see what is missing. Copenhagen was to be the time and place where the world began a united fight back against climate change. It was to be historic. In the end, it will be remembered, but not as the great breakthrough everyone hoped. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, at the Climate Change Summit in Copenhagen.